I'm not sure if there's any way to make your own flag model. I'm sure there's got to be some way. I don't know it yet, but if I ever do find out what it is, I will be more than happy to put it up and show you guys how to do it, because I'd love to just make a giant freaking flag at some point. What is up, everyone? Welcome to a new video and welcome to Top Deck. I would argue this is probably the first track with animated objects besides the animated flags that Poboso gives us with the game. But if you guys remember from one of my previous videos, I wanted to try to figure out how to make my own animated flag, and eventually I did, and I have it on this track. It is the flag super big right here at the back of the ship. And just to kind of give a reference on how big it is, this flag right here is Poboso's big flag model, so that kind of just goes to show how big I made it. But it led to so many more things that I could do in terms of just animating objects. Obviously you can see the water I animated. I also animated these overhead banners that blow in the wind, kind of give a nice little touch. And also you can animate stuff that just moves in general. Like I have this hangar elevator right here, and you can see it start to move. Pretty soon it'll do like a bit of a jump and start really moving as it goes up. There it goes. You can see it taking the planes up from the hangar up to the top. You can do cool stuff like that. That is going to be the topic of today's video. I'm going to teach you guys how to do this. You guys have been asking so much since that animated flag video if I've figured anything out, and I've been kind of keeping this to myself for the time being, but I can finally give it out to you guys. I wanted to, naturally be the one that brings this to light on my own, but yeah, I would definitely feel wrong if I didn't share this with everyone else, because I'm sure you guys can make stuff better than I can. But I will definitely say that this is not for the faint of heart. You will definitely want to have some decent Blender experience working with modifiers, forces, and stuff like that. Not terribly hard to learn how to do, but it definitely would help to have taken the time and learn how to do those things. So I will show you guys how to make an animated object by, let's start by making, I don't know, one of those flags that you would hang on the wall that kind of blows in the wind, rather than a flag that's mounted something straight up and down like this. We're going to rotate this to be hanging down towards the ground with a little bit of a wind blowing at it from the side, so it has a nice little wave to it. So I will see you guys in Blender. Okay, so here we are in Blender. We're just going to clear all of the objects, and I'm going to spawn in a plane for my flag, and we're going to make this flag 1 by 2. Kind of looks like a flag, and we're going to rotate this guy 90 degrees. That way it's standing up and down, and then I'm going to move this guy down so that the edge of it is at the origin, because the origin is where the game references the location of this object when you locate it in the SCR file. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to want to look at my animated flag tutorial, and that'll explain that. Honestly, you should look at that video first before looking at this one anyway, since this is going to be a lot more complex than that video. So, alright. First things first, we're going to subdivide this quite a bit. That's probably pretty good right there. And now we're going to give this a solidify modifier. If you don't do this, you're not going to be able to see the backside of your flag or the sides, mainly the backside, because we're making this so thin you won't even be able to see it anyway. So 0.02, I believe that is not too bad. Yeah, that don't looks pretty good. Okay, we'll apply that, and now we'll go in and apply a subdivision surface modifier. Keep it simple. And let's see here. We also want to give this a cloth modifier as well in the physics tab. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go along these top faces here. That guy, or actually no, we'll just pin that one and then this one. That way it looks like it's kind of like hung by the corners. So we're gonna select those two corners and we're gonna pin them. So we're gonna create a vertex group. I'm just going to name it pinned, and while we have those two vertices selected, I'm going to assign those vertices to this pinned group. So now we're going to go back to our cloth modifier, and there should be a pinned, there should be a vertex group to pin these vertices to. Where is it at? Oh, shape. Yeah, pin group. Pinned. So now what's going to happen is if I hit play, you'll see how the flag kind of hangs there. And this is also a good way of, if you just stop the animation right here, like you'll have a realistic looking flag and you can save that as an object. I learned that from Fat Muppet, so shout out Mr. Muppet for teaching me that, and also just sharing the information with me on how to do this in general. I will link the video that Muppet showed me in the description, so you guys can see for yourself. We are having a bit of an issue here with this flag, though. I don't know why it's doing that. Let's see here. Let's turn on internal springs and then back this all the way up and see. Okay, I mean, it's not bad. It looks about like how you would imagine a flag. Alright. Don't mind my computer like absolutely struggling to run because yeah. Alright. Yeah, you're pretty much just going to play around with those values until you get something that you like. And now I'm going to set up a wind force that is going to be coming from the front, so in the positive direction. And I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees towards the flag. And we're going to want to play with this a little bit. So 200 might be a little excessive. Not exactly sure how this is going to play out, but we'll just play the animation, see what happens. Oh, I forgot. We need to turn on self-collisions, and it's going to make my computer run even worse. But that's fine. Alright, turn that on. And now... Oh god. Oh god. What the hell is going on here? Okay. Maybe that's where I messed up from the jump. Maybe we can get rid of these internal springs and just do normal self-collision, see what happens, and it's going to be the same thing. Cool. Okay. Let me figure out whatever the hell is going on here, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so here we are. Had to do a little bit of... I don't even know. I had to like completely redo it. I guess it was just subdivided way too much. But anyway, here we are with a solid looking animation. So now once you have your object kind of doing what you want it to do, you're just going to try to find somewhere in your timeline that looks like that could like loop pretty seamlessly, or you're going to try to find as seamless of a loop as you possibly can in your timeline. So I noticed how somewhere around here, like this part of the flag is like kind of pushed out, or what we can do is find somewhere where the flag is kind of like just flat like that. So we're going to start at frame 7, and we're going to just go on a little up the timeline until we kind of see something that looks like that again. Sure, 236 maybe. I don't know. I feel like that's a bit bigger of a window than I'd like to work with. We can do... Let's try 80. Let's try like 86 or something. And so you're just going to play, and we're going to see how nice of a loop that is. Oh, why did I keep going? Ow. Oops. I didn't set it. That's why. I didn't set the end. Okay, so here we go. Now we're kind of... So here's where we kind of have a problem. I mean, it's not too much of a problem, but they kind of end up in a similar position. The only difference is rather than going back, it's getting pushed out when it restarts. So I guess what we can do is start at 58. I mean, end at 58 and continue to start at 7, and we'll see what our see what it looks like then. And then you just kind of play with it until you have something that looks pretty seamless. I mean, you're not going to get anything that's perfect, but something that your end looks very similar to your beginning. So this is the part where Poboso taught me how to get this in the game. So if we go and look at the flag CFG, the data for the flags, in the common folder, you will see, once I pull this up, you will see that we have these 4 channels here. Channel 0, channel 1, channel 2, channel 3. So what these channels are for, the first channel is for no wind, and the next is low, medium, and then high wind. So the way that you bring this over to Blender, or before I mention that, in the game there are 4 different animations for flags, or animated objects, I guess, but in this case it's flags. You will have an animation when there is no wind, and one for low, medium, high. You get the point. The way you translate this over to Blender is you're going to set up a collection for each of these channels. If you were to go through and make an animation for no wind, low wind, mid wind, and high, usually I just make one channel, because I have, the way I set up my CFGs and my custom tracks is it's set everything to max just so it looks good. But if you were to set this up all the way through, the way you would do it is you would title your first collection with an underscore, and then in all caps it's going to be shape ANIM for animation with no spaces, and then you're going to do 0, and that is going to be for your channel 0. And this collection will be your animation for that channel, and then you do the same thing for the rest of them, numbering them accordingly. So shape anim 1, shape anim 2, and shape anim 3. Goodness. And like I said, I didn't take the time to do that all the way through. I only have it set up for one. You can just set up your CFG accordingly. It's not too hard. But yeah, I'll show you how to do all that once we get there. So to our object, we are going to start off with our first keyframe. So all of this also has to take place at the same location. All of these objects must share the same location. And in the case of the hangar elevator, since I had to change the position of it, I had to apply the location of those objects in Blender so they all shared the same location for the game to reference the change, I guess, in that object. It's kind of complicated, I guess, me saying that out loud, but I'll do my best to show it once I get the chance. So setting up your first keyframe, good lord, we are going to be in for the long haul here, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so what you are going to do is you are going to copy this object. I usually just hit Control C and then Control V, and lucky for me, it already put it in that first channel. So what I'm going to do now that I pasted that in, to get rid of all these modifiers and everything, and to lock that object in as I play the animation, I am going to convert this to a mesh. And now, as you can see, I still have that flag sitting there with the other one playing the animation inside of it. If I didn't do that, this object will play its own animation with this. So make sure you convert to mesh whenever you paste in your new keyframe. That's essentially how we're setting this up. We are setting up a bunch of keyframes for the game to reference. So what I mean by that is, once I find my next keyframe, I will tell you what I am talking about. Okay, so the next keyframe, I noticed how... Okay, so you see how the flag comes back and then this corner down here stops. Right there. So we're probably just going to do this. We're just going to do every 7 frames, I guess, because that seems to be a pretty solid space in terms of when this object appears to be in a different position, and at the same time we're going to give ourselves equal time distance or time lengths between our keyframes, since we are starting at 7 and ending at 70, so they're both multiples of 7. Therefore, each of your frames will be equally spaced out in time, so it will look pretty natural. Both of those things you want to consider. You're not going to be able to do that in every case, but you will want to balance how it looks in terms of like a checkpoint, and at the same time kind of spacing them out equally along your time frame. So I noticed how this one corner stops and then it allows the other corner to whip back a little further. So essentially what we are doing here is the game will play from this animation and then it will move the object to this next location here. Okay. Oh, oops, I accidentally copied the fucking the plane that already made a keyframe. Alright. I feel like this is going to be a super fucking confusing video to understand, but I'm doing my best to explain. I also forgot to mention, as you make your keyframes, you are going to want to title them the same thing as your collection name, so shape anim 0 in this case, and then after anim 0 you are going to type key 0 loop for your first keyframe. So your starting keyframe will be key 0 loop after the name, and then for the next one it will be shape anim 0 key 1, and you just leave it at that. Kind of helps to go in and copy that, especially if you're going to be making a bunch of keyframes. It makes this a little less time consuming, because as you probably have already noticed, this is a pretty time consuming endeavor, especially if you're trying to make something nice. Alright, so shape anim 0 key 2 for my third keyframe, and I'm just going to go every 7 frames. Oh, I forgot to see, you would have probably noticed that this frame right here moved with the plane, or the plane with the modifiers. So convert the mesh, shape anim 0 key 2, select your animating plane, and I'm just going to do this every 7 frames all the way up until I get to 70, and I will show you guys what I have when I'm done. Alright, so I just put in my last keyframe, and take note that I am not going to use my last frame on my timeline because I want to make about as smooth of a transition as I can from the beginning of the animation that plays in the game to the start of it. And this kind of window that I made in Blender on the time frame is just kind of something that I can see as a prediction to see how smooth the animation is going to play. So here we are with all of these frames over here, and you're also going to make sure that you include the loop in the name, because I don't know if I already said it, but if you don't, your animation will not work. It's just going to spawn in looking like a bunch of stacked salami on top of each other, I guess you could say.
Talking about
What is it?
1238.
It's
He said 430. Yeah, he said 438. It's 1238.
What the fuck?
I don't think it's supposed to do that.
I don't think it's supposed to do that either. So now what I am going to do is give this flag a texture, and the way I gave flag super big a texture is to simply pretty much all I did was just gave it flag.tga. It makes it it gives it the what am I trying to say? You can pretty much just slap your flag paints on it and it works just like any other flag in the game. So I thought that would be pretty handy. So now this flag is not positioned the right way. So let me see here. Alright, so now that we have that, we are going to select all of that. If you were to set up all your different animation channels, you would select all of those as well. But for the sake of this video and for the sake of time, we're just going to do just this first channel. So we're going to select everything, export that as an FBX, as a mesh, just like how you would export any other object, I guess you could say. And we'll call this one vertical flag with the caps. Okay, and then you find your FBX to EDF. Right here, and then we're going to load it. Vertical flag, save as, I was making a new whatchamacallit, background, and we'll call this vert flag, and I'm just going to save this in the common folder just for the sake of putting it with the rest of the flags. I wouldn't necessarily recommend putting this right away into your flags folder. I would just put this in whatever place you would test it at. That way you don't have to navigate back. I mean, if this is the only thing you're focusing on, I guess it won't be that big of a deal, but whatever. And yeah, you're going to convert it just like any other object. Boom, it's done. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this in a new folder or in a new window. I apologize. And we're going to put this on the example track. It is that easy to test your animated objects. Clicking on the wrong thing. Vert flag. Oh, I don't want to move it. I just want to copy it. And you're going to open your example.edf, or not screensaver file. My apologies. And do I have flag super big on here? Yes, I do. Cool. All right, so we're going to do vert flag, and I'm just going to let it no, let's not have it reference that. Actually, let's let it reference I'll give it its own CFG, possibly, because I can't fully remember if you can just let it reference just normal CFGs without all the channels, but either way, you probably wouldn't want it to do that anyway, because a flag that is hanging vertically, it probably wouldn't be blowing at the same speed, or the animation wouldn't be playing at the same speed as the animation for just normal flags blowing in the wind. So, like, for example, my flag's super big. In order to get that nice, slow, beautiful, wavy flag blowing in the wind, I had to create its own CFG and really slow down the animation time for it. So compared to the normal flag .cfg, you can see it is literally double the length of the normal flag CFG. So we're going to hop into the vertical flag CFG, and I'm going to get rid of all these channels, and we got about, I don't know, I want to say 9 frames. So let's do 4.5 seconds. That way each frame plays half a second. I feel like that would be fairly smooth. But notice how I have my channel correlated with the collection. So collection 0, channel 0. All right, so this should work, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've done this, because I've been working on a bunch of other stuff between when I was animating objects and when I released the track. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all you got to do in order to get an animated object into the game. And it can be literally anything you want.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Hi, I'm Al Harrington, President and CEO of Al Harrington's Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Man Emporium and Warehouse. Thanks to a shipping error, I am now currently overstocked on Wacky Waving Inflatable Arm Flailing Tube Men, and I am passing the savings on to you!
So, I would love to see the creativity that the MX Bikes community has with this knowledge. I'd love to see like trees blowing in the wind and like stuff like that. If that was even possible, I feel like the game would just suffer tremendously. But yeah, I will see you guys at the track, see what we have made, and yeah, hopefully it works. Ah, I forgot. So hopefully that fixes it, and we'll try again. But yeah, if you run into any problems, literally just a little adjustment with your SCR file, or changing the EDF and putting it back into your folder. That's all you got to do. You don't have to rebuild the track or anything like that. So, attempt number 2. Alright, so here we are back. And here we go. We got our animated hanging flag. And look at that animation. That's not bad. I actually like that. The UV is a little messed up. It's a little overscaled, you can see, because the it kind of repeats whenever you have a UV scaled larger than your object. It'll repeat the texture, so that is why we are getting a little bit of a repeated texture here. But yeah, that's not a bad animation. Like, I kind of like that. I might actually hold on to this. But yeah, that's pretty much all that there is to it. Like, you can just set up the location for it. Like, if I wanted to have it hang from this right here, that would require a little more work, because you got to rotate it accordingly. Especially since most people who load up the game, they're not playing in realistic mode. All the wind is set to north, so it blows from north to south, and basically north to south is like the wind is coming from the north, and these flags are blowing. That edge of the map is to the south. That's what that means. So in order to customize your location, like say you wanted to change, rather than having this kind of a finish line banner or this finish line stand, you wanted a finish line banner like what is in Top Deck. I will show you how to do that now. All right, so let's open Top Deck, and I'll show you how I got the animated banners, the animated finish line banner on here. So, all right, here we are on Top Deck, and you can see I don't have any banner here or whatever. So let me make sure I don't have. Okay, cool. Wanted to make sure I didn't have any animated objects already in here. It doesn't really matter. Track is out. I don't really care what happens to this blend file anymore. But let's see here. Finish banner. Let's import that. It's going to take a little bit. Okay. So here is the finish line banner. That is the stock texture that I use for my finish line banners. So I wonder why it is like that. Shouldn't, the location should not be that. I must have applied the location for some reason. Alright, then let's try a different one. Let's try the Danger Zone banner. Hopefully this comes out where I want it to. Why is it still referencing that same location? Strange. Okay. Basically, how you would do this is you would position the banner where you would want it at. So say I wanted the danger zone banner right where the danger zone banner is in the game, which is basically right here. I'm not going to line it up perfectly for the sake of time, as much as my OCD wants me to. So the way that MX Bikes works, I don't know why it works like this, so I'm not going to answer why, but this is what you have to do in order to get your animated objects in a customized location and orientation, blase. You get what I'm saying? So if these poles were oriented like sideways or 45, whatever angle, I would follow the exact same process that I'm going to follow right now. Once I have my animated object where I want it to be at, I am going to rotate it 180 degrees on the Z-axis, so it will be facing the opposite way that you will want it to be facing. And then what you are going to do, I am just going to click on one of these to see. Okay, so our location is 39.349 on the X, 187.35 on the Y, and 7 1/4 or 7 1/8 on the Z. What you are going to do is you are going to hold Alt, so that way what change of this dimension you are going to do will apply to all of these. If you're holding the Alt key, it will affect all of your selected objects. Click on your X, make that negative. I don't know why it still only did one. Okay. Select all of them. Alt, that, negative. Okay, whatever. It's not really working with me. I don't know why. Well, it pretty. Oh, I didn't select all of them. Whatever. You are going to make your X and Y values the inverse of what they are. So rather than positive, they are going to be negative, or vice versa, depending on where you have it located at. So just to run you back through that process, because I got lost in the sauce a little bit there. Once you have your animated object, blase, all your keyframes, once you have them in the location that you want that object to be in the game, you are going to rotate it 180 degrees on the Z-axis, and you are going to make your X and Y value on the location the opposite sign. So positive to negative in this case, or negative to positive, depending on where the location is. And this is where you are going to export your object. You're going to export it just like this as an FBX, and then when you put it in your track folder, you can see I have, where is it at? My dangerzone.edf. I gave it a paint also. You will go to your SCR file, and when you type in your new location, or you're going to set up your new object. These are all flag lines of code, by the way, not a rotating object. So you will copy a normal flag. Let me see if I can find. Like, you will copy a flag object line of code. So just bear that in mind. But the position that you will give it is 0, 0, 0. And when you load it up in game with the wind blowing north, as it will, without you doing anything to the weather or anything, it will rotate that object into position. So it will rotate it from over there around and snap it where it is supposed to be. That is essentially what happens when the wind is blowing north. So I don't know why it's like that, but that's what you got to do. I hope I didn't make that more confusing than it needed to be. But if you have any questions regarding any of this, feel free to ask in the comments. I will answer whatever whatever I can. And yeah, that's basically it, ladies and gentlemen. I think I have covered everything that I need to cover. Super excited to see what you guys come up with. And yeah, just keep on creating. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for listening to my rant. I applaud you for sitting through that, and hopefully you learned something from all this. I sure as hell did when I was trying to do it on my own, and when Poboso was telling me what I had to do. He essentially just told me how to set all this up and sent me on my merry way, which is understandable. He's a very busy man. But yeah, luckily I figured it out, and hopefully I made it more presentable for you guys. So with that being said, Poboso did tell me that at some point he was wanting to make a special line of code in the SCR file for animated objects. That way you will not have to do this relocate kind of thing that I did here at the end. You should hopefully be able to assign a location to your object and assign an angle to it, so that way it is correctly positioned strictly with just the SCR stuff. You wouldn't have to do any of this relocating stuff in Blender. So kind of just adds an annoying step in between, and you won't be able to change the direction of the wind or play on realistic weather on your tracks, but that's fine. Who really does that anyway? So yeah, with that being said, thanks again for watching the video, and let me know if you learned anything, and let me know if you have any trouble trying to do this. I will do my best to help. So I will see y'all next time. Peace.